Welcome back to Bournemouth Politics. Today, I am your host, Jude. Of course, we are talking about the rampant usage of AI in politics. Now, as everyone might know, I am not the biggest fan of AI currently, but we do have a special guest, Alex, to come
Alexander.
help us with that. Sorry, Alexander. To help us and maybe change our minds on the and change our perspectives on the positives and negatives of AI. Now, of course, many people know what AI is, as it's a very new topic and it's all the rage to talk about it. And of course, we have Alexander, who is a massive proponent of AI, going up against a seasoned debatist, me. I am not a fan of AI because I see a lot of issues with it, ethically, and with sustainable development goals. But we'll get into that in a bit. Um, of course, it is important to keep an open mind with these debates. Come into it with good faith and not just to straw man every perspective, understanding that it's not about the person. We're not fighting a person. We're trying to discuss ideas and come to the conclusion, hopefully, of either AI being a positive or a negative in politics. Um, so I will allow my opponent to come up with the opening statement, and hopefully I'll be able to, you know, get some chink in the armor and maybe uh, give them a few reasons why AI isn't as good as they might think. Take it away, Alexander.
Thank you, Jude. AI has its issues, everyone knows that. But the positives vastly outweigh the negatives. AI can be used to achieve many, if not all, of the Sustainable Development Goals more efficiently than any human could come up with, since looking at it from a more objective than a humanist view. There are many positives in AI, there are many positives allowing AI in politics, apologies, from more compelling campaigns to having our politicians talk about the goals we care about, eliminating poverty, increasing education spending, and maybe even reducing climate change. Sure, I hear that you talk about sustainable development goals, of course. I think using those goals is a very good indicator of if AI could be good or bad in politics. Of course, there's more views, and we might talk about them later. But talking about sustainable development goals, one of which is clean water. I would like to point out that the vast majority of AI data centers use clean water in order to, in order to cool down the data centers while they're trying to train data. And I think that there is a massive issue with that, seeing as that is essentially going against some of the sustainable development goals. No, also, you might be interested to find out that I recently found a paper, which I will link here, um, on how is actually causing cognitive recession. So, whilst yes, it might be able to find gaps in the budget to maybe spend more money on, education spending, it actively is reducing the amount of education going on in our country, and I think that is a massive issue. I think it should be well known, that critical thinking is a very important skill, and if AI is hindering that, then surely we should look into any other way to do something rather than obviously reduce our critical thinking skills. All right, I hear your 2 points. I would like to elucidate in order to perhaps ease your mind on at least one in a structured manner. So let's just go by point on point so that we don't gish gallop, eh?
Yeah,
So
sorry.
your first point, you're correct. Western AI data centers, especially in America, use a lot of clean drinkable water to cool them. But let's look at that more in depth. Firstly, let's look around the world. It's not realistic just to look at America, so let's look at also China. China's data centers are offshore and they use the surrounding seawater to cool them, which would be much more efficient and hold your theory on the no water goal. It's interesting though, because why don't America's data centers do the same thing? Well, it's because data centers and deserts are cheap
They're barren. Deserts are barren land with infinite potential, while the ocean is expensive and not, you know. China, however, has the political infrastructure to build in its waters whatever it wants, while Americans, private companies at least, make do. You know what could have fixed this, though? An AI informing the president about trying to implement a policy that allows private companies to do what China has. This also eliminates your first point. The second point you made was on education, which is curious to me. I looked at the study you cited, and while it seems pretty damning at first, the money that the AI could save the government could potentially be enough to implement classes on how to responsibly use AI and thinking skills, which AI could, I guess, help the teachers come up with. Lastly, this wouldn't be much to do with politics, but more about how AI affects communities. So, how is anything said relevant? We don't want to push goalposts now, would we? Sure, of course we don't. I would argue that communities are politics. Everything is politics. So, looking at how communities are affected by AI, and AI is looking at how AI affects politics. To address the first thing you said about the water, yeah, they don't do that though. If they did do that, then that would be fantastic, but they don't. And whataboutism only works in some instances. This is not one of them. So why don't they do that? You are correct. It's because of the infrastructure that China has, and I would argue that's an indictment of capitalism. But we are not looking at that right now. We are looking at specifically AI's impact in politics. So why shouldn't America put their data centers in the ocean then? They clearly could, and the government could put a rule saying that all data centers now have to be made in the ocean to then, stop that sustainable development goal getting hindered even more. To your second point, yes, AI could, in theory, help make more efficiencies in the government, especially to educate people more. However, I would like to ask where it's going to get that money from, because from what I hear, that money is probably going to come from making people redundant and trying to streamline the governmental jobs and roles more with AI. And I have a massive problem with that, seeing as that would lay off a bunch of people, and that would be a problem with AI. That would actually probably be more of a problem with AI in politics, seeing as the idea that we have a bunch of people getting laid off, that would increase unemployment and therefore increase poverty, which is another sustainable development goal that we don't really want. We don't really want to draw back even more. Like AI might be able to find some places that it might be able to find some money in some places that could be made redundant. But honestly, I think a lot of the places that redundancies would be made by AI is probably just going to be people. If there were any other places, we probably would have found them already by now. So yeah, and the last point is yes, it is very, very integral that we talk about communities, like especially integral in politics. Very, very important that we talk about communities. It's not irrelevant. It's not moving the goalposts. It's making sure people understand what AI in politics would do. Making sure people understand that using AI to create policies in government has its drawbacks, because it can also hinder these development goals, but also hinder people's lives just as it is. Yes. Apologies. I concede on that last point. You are right about the communities are politics. However, I was under the assumption you wanted to talk more about creating policies and campaigning rather than the micro levels of politics and the individual level. Onto your points, though,
what the government does right now has very little to do with AI, and that is the unfortunate truth. You are right. There is an indictment on the administration that they have not already thought to make that rule, but your specific issue, again, is thinking about now and not the future. AI is an ever increasing presence in politics, and it's going to be here to stay. AI is making policy for government and has precedents, though. It hasn't, just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it won't. And there is a man in local government who ran purely on AI points and policies, and I believe he'll just start. I'll link it here.
Thank you.
Moving on, your redundancy point doesn't really talk about the issues with AI on education, but it does talk more about the issues with how we're trying to find redundancies in government. But that's just a part of life, and AI can be used to train them with more skills so that they can go back into the working world. Oh, alright, I see what you mean by, it hasn't much to do with politics. I'm glad you conceded on that point, though, because obviously it is. I see what you mean by you wanted to talk more about, this side of politics where it's actually campaigning and everything. I've looked at your source, this BBC article. It talks about the positives of AI quite a lot. But it also says that this guy only got 100 votes in the constituent that he ran for, or 99, okay? It seems like people didn't really like what he was doing because they said he felt very robotic as a person, and they really weren't a big fan. So yes, there is precedence for people trying this. There is also precedence for people not really wanting to be a part of that. And yeah, Liberal Democrats and the Labour government, as it says here, also used it in their campaign, but they also didn't win the election. They didn't win as many seats as other parties, and I think that kind of shows that people don't really want AI in this side of politics very much. Though it did seem to help the Liberal Democrats more than it helped Labour. I would like to say though, yeah, I'm more talked about the redundancies in government than I did with the issues on education. But if you want to talk about more about the issues of AI in education, I do think thinking about the now is the most important thing. You kept on telling me that it's about the future, but really, let's be honest. Currently, people are getting hindered with their thoughts. People aren't thinking as much. That's what cognitive decline is, and it's currently happening. I mean, you can think about the future as much as you want, but if people aren't thinking enough, then the future, it is looking bleak regardless of the possibilities that it could have. Thank you guys for watching. The full podcast will be available soon. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. This debate was, of course, very fun to engage with, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, as well as had enough critical thinking skills from it. I hope it was educational enough, in other words. I'll see you guys in the next episode.